Your parents were not trying to sabotage your financial future. They were trying to protect you. They handed you the same advice that worked for them, the same rules that helped them buy homes, raise families, and retire with some dignity. But here's a problem nobody wants to say out loud. The world that advice was built for no longer exists, and following those rules today is not just outdated, it can be financially dangerous. Baby boomers currently control more than 50% of all household wealth in the United States. Millennials, now deep into their 30s and 40s, hold less than 5%. Some of that gap is explained by age. Older people have had more time to accumulate, but that does not explain the full picture. When boomers were the same age millennials are now, they held far more wealth at that stage of life. Something structural shifted, and yet the advice being passed down from parents to children still sounds exactly the same as it did 50 years ago. Buy a house as soon as you can. Get a college degree no matter what. Save your money diligently. Stay loyal to one company. Avoid all debt at all costs. Each of these sounded wise in the 1970s and 1980s. Today, blindly following them can trap you in financial quicksand. This is not about blaming your parents. It is about understanding that the economy transformed beneath everyone's feet, and the old maps lead to cliffs that did not exist before. Let us start by understanding the world your parents entered as young adults. In the early 1970s and into the 1980s, a median-priced home in America cost roughly 2.5 times the median household income. That meant a family earning a typical salary could afford a typical house with reasonable savings and a manageable mortgage. A single income often supported an entire household. Mothers could stay home with children, not out of luxury, but because one paycheck genuinely covered the bills. Pensions were standard. Nearly 40% of private sector workers were covered by defined benefit retirement plans. You worked for a company for decades, and they paid you in retirement until you died. That was the deal. College was affordable to the point of being almost free compared to today. State universities charged a few $100s per semester. Many students worked summer jobs and paid tuition in cash. Graduating with debt was unusual, not expected. This is not nostalgia. This is economic fact. The advice your parents gave made complete sense in that environment. Buy a house because it was genuinely affordable and would likely appreciate. Get a degree because it was cheap and nearly guaranteed upward mobility. Save money because interest rates on savings accounts were often 5, 7, even 10%. Stay loyal to your company because that loyalty was rewarded with pensions and promotions. Avoid debt because debt was expensive and unnecessary for most major purchases. Every piece of that advice was rational and sound in the world they knew. The problem is that that world evaporated. Now let's talk about the first dangerous piece of advice. Buy a house as soon as possible. For your parents, this was wisdom. For you, it might be a trap. The math has fundamentally broken. Today, the median home price in America is roughly 7 to 8 times the median household income. In expensive cities, it's far worse, 12 times. 15 times. In some markets, housing costs are so disconnected from wages that no amount of frugality or hard work makes home ownership possible without family money or extraordinary luck. Back in 1980, saving for a down payment on a median home took roughly 2 to 3 years of disciplined saving for a median income household. Today, that same calculation takes a decade or more. And while you're saving, prices keep climbing. You're chasing a moving target that runs faster than you can. The advice to buy as soon as possible pushes young people into desperate decisions. They stretch into mortgages they cannot truly afford. They drain retirement accounts for down payments. They move to places they don't want to live just to get on the ladder. And when interest rates spike or an unexpected expense hits, they find themselves underwater, trapped in homes they cannot sell and payments they cannot sustain. Some of the worst financial collapses in young households today come not from reckless spending, but from trying too hard to follow the old rules. They heard buy a house and obeyed, even when the math screamed otherwise. Here's what parents often forget. Their first home probably cost them $80,000 or $100,000 when they earned $30,000 or $40,000 a year. That ratio was manageable. But when houses cost $500,000 and income is $60,000, the equation shatters. The same advice in different numbers produces completely different outcomes. The second dangerous piece of advice is about education. Get a college degree and you'll be set for life. Your parents meant well. In their era, a degree was a golden ticket. It opened doors that stayed closed to everyone else. It was affordable, often paid for with part-time work and small scholarships. Employers respected it. A bachelor's degree nearly guaranteed a middle-class life. Today, college tuition has increased over 1,200% since 1980. That's not a typo. 1,200%. Inflation over the same period was roughly 270%. Wages, for most workers, barely kept pace with inflation at all. The cost of education exploded, while the purchasing power of labor stayed flat. The result is a generation drowning in student debt. Total student loan debt in the United States now exceeds $1.7 trillion. The average borrower graduates with over $30,000 in loans. For graduate and professional degrees, that number often climbs over $100,000. But the degree itself no longer delivers what it once promised. Credential inflation means jobs that once required a high school diploma now demand a bachelor's degree, often with no corresponding increase in pay. Entry-level positions ask for master's degrees. Administrative assistants need 4-year degrees for roles that paid middle-class wages decades ago to high school graduates. The latter pulled up behind the generation that climbed it. Some degrees still make financial sense. Engineering, nursing, computer science, accounting. These can still produce solid returns. But many graduates find themselves with expensive degrees in fields where jobs are scarce and pay is low. They followed the advice faithfully and woke up at 25 with a mortgage-sized debt and an income that cannot service it. Meanwhile, plumbers, electricians, and welders, tradespeople dismissed by the college for everyone push, often earn more with no debt and years of head start in the workforce. Your parents weren't wrong to value education, but they were speaking about a different economic calculation entirely. Now here's a piece of advice that sounds impossible to argue with. Just save money and you'll be fine. This was true when savings accounts actually paid you. In the late 1970s and early 1980s, savings accounts routinely offered 5%, sometimes higher, 7%, occasionally even 10% during periods of high inflation, though that inflation itself was eroding value. Still, for someone disciplined enough to save, the bank actually rewarded you for doing it. Your money grew while it sat there. Today, the average savings account pays somewhere between 0.5% and maybe 2% if you're lucky and shop around. Inflation in recent years has run between 3 and 8%. Do the math. If your savings account pays 1% and inflation is 5%, your money is losing 4% of its purchasing power every single year. You're not growing your wealth. You're watching it quietly shrink. $1 saved in 2020 might buy 80 cents worth of groceries by 2025. Your parents' savings accounts actually built wealth in real terms. Yours, if left in cash, guarantees you will fall behind. This doesn't mean saving is pointless. It means where you save matters enormously. Money sitting in a traditional savings account is bleeding value. Investments, stocks, index funds, real estate, even certain high-yield accounts can at least keep pace with inflation and ideally outpace it. Your parents didn't need to think about this distinction. Their savings worked automatically. Yours do not. The fourth dangerous piece of advice is about loyalty. Stay with one company, work your way up, and you'll be rewarded. Your parents probably worked for the same company for decades. They received regular raises. They climbed the ladder slowly but reliably. When they retired, they collected a pension. Loyalty was a strategy, not just a sentiment. That deal is extinct. Pensions have collapsed from covering nearly 40% of workers in 1980 to under 15% today, and the pensions that remain are concentrated in government jobs or a handful of legacy industries. Most workers today have 401k plans instead. That sounds similar, but is radically different. A pension promised a fixed payout regardless of what the market did. A 401k puts all the investment risk on your shoulders. If the market crashes the year before you retire, that's your problem. If you didn't contribute enough, that's your problem. The company owes you nothing but what you already saved. And when it comes to raises and promotions, data now consistently shows that job hoppers out-earn loyalists. Employees who switch companies every 2 to 3 years see salary increases of 10 to 15% on average. Those who stay often receive annual raises of 2 to 3%, barely matching inflation. Companies budget more generously to attract new talent than to retain existing employees. Loyalty is penalized. Mobility is rewarded. Following the old advice to stay put can cost you hundreds of thousands of dollars over a career. Your parents weren't naive. The companies they worked for actually valued long-term employees and rewarded them accordingly. Those companies don't often exist anymore, or they changed their policies entirely. Here's where things get counterintuitive. Your parents probably taught you to avoid all debt like the plague. Any debt, credit cards, car loans, mortgages if you could help it, just don't borrow money. This was sensible in an era of high interest rates and scarce credit. Borrowing was expensive. The math punished you. But in the last 2 decades, and particularly in the 2010s, interest rates collapsed to historic lows. Mortgages at 3%, business loans at 4%. Meanwhile, the stock market averaged 8 to 10% annual returns over the long term. Mathematically, borrowing at 3% to invest at 8% builds wealth. It's leverage. It's how the wealthy